For thousands of years, farmers, monks and village gardeners relied on a plant so effective that it required no fences, no chemicals and no marketing. It grew wherever people settled, followed livestock trails and thrived in disturbed soil. Modern agriculture dismissed it as a nuisance and taught us to kill it on sight. Yet medieval manuscripts, Roman farming manuals and early homestead records all agree on one thing. This weed protected crops and rebuilt exhausted soil at the same time. That plant is stinging nettle, and once you understand how it was used, it becomes clear that its disappearance from modern systems was a mistake, not progress. What follows is not folklore or gardening myth. It is a practical system refined over centuries, one that still works today whether you farm with hydroponics, raised beds or open soil. Stinging nettle earned its place because pests avoided it long before chemicals existed. Ancient growers did not separate pest control from soil health. They observed plant behavior and copied what worked. Stinging nettle, earned respect because insects avoided it instinctively. The fine hairs along its leaves inject formic acid and mineral salts, which, repel soft-bodied pests and discourage grazing insects from settling nearby. Medieval gardeners deliberately allowed nettle to grow at the edges of beds, orchards and grain plots, not as neglect, but as a living barrier. Aphids, flea beetles and caterpillars consistently avoided areas dominated by nettle growth. To apply this today, allow nettle to grow in controlled zones near gardens rather than eliminating it entirely. In modern systems where space is limited, dried nettle can be fermented into a liquid extract. This method was recorded in 12th century monastery gardens, and, it involves soaking chopped nettle in water for 10 to 14 days until it's fully broken down. The resulting liquid, which should be diluted before use, is then sprayed directly onto plant leaves. It does not kill pests outright, but rather disrupts their feeding and reproduction cycles, making it effective without, damaging beneficial insects. Ancient soil builders understood nettle as a mineral pump rather than simply a weed. What made nettle truly valuable was not just what it repelled, but what it returned to the earth. Now, nettle has these exceptionally deep roots, which are able to pull up calcium, magnesium, iron and nitrogen from those subsoil layers that are, frankly unreachable by most crops. When nettle is cut and returned to the surface, all those minerals make their way back into the topsoil in a form that, plants can actually absorb. Roman agricultural texts even describe nettle as a restorer of tired ground. And that's a phrase, interestingly enough, that modern soil science now validates. The practical use is, quite straightforward and historically accurate. Simply cut nettle before it flowers, chop it up finely, and then incorporate it into compost piles or directly into the soil as green matter. Ancient farmers, would layer nettle beneath straw and manure to accelerate decomposition. The result really was a dark, mineral-rich compost that improved yields without external inputs. In hydroponic systems today, nettle tea can be strained and introduced in controlled amounts as a micronutrient supplement, echoing its original function without the need for soil. Nettle-based brews actually replaced modern fertilizers for centuries. Long before synthetic nitrogen existed, nettle served as a reliable nutrient source, and that's quite remarkable, isn't it? When fermented, nettle releases nitrogen slowly, avoiding those rapid spikes that tend to weaken plants and attract pests. This balance feeding method produced sturdier crops with thicker cell walls, making them naturally resistant to disease. Rather clever, really. So, to replicate this system, you'll want to harvest young nettle growth, submerge it fully in water, and then allow it to ferment until the bubbling stops. After that, make sure to dilute the liquid at least 10:1 before applying it to the soil or around the plant roots. Historical records, really emphasize moderation. Stronger solutions were used quite sparingly and never during extreme heat. This careful practice fed crops while maintaining soil biology, a detail, honestly, that's often missing from modern fertilizer use. Traditional farmers actually use nettle to strengthen plants, not just to feed them. Beyond nutrients, nettle contains silica, which, strengthens plant tissue. This really mattered in eras when storms, pests and poor soil could destroy an entire season's work. Stronger plants, you see, bent instead of breaking and resisted fungal infections more effectively. Nettle extracts were used as foliar sprays specifically for this reason, particularly on grains and legumes. Applying this knowledge today involves timing rather than volume. Use diluted nettle spray during early growth stages when plants are forming structural tissue. Avoid late-stage application, a rule noted in historical farming calendars, because excess nitrogen late in the season weakens storage crops. The disappearance of nettle farming, you see, coincided with industrial convenience, not failure. Nettle did not disappear because it stopped working. It vanished because industrial fertilizers and pesticides promised, speed and uniformity. These systems replaced observation with dependency. What ancient farmers understood instinctively was that soil and pests respond to balance, not force. Nettle represented balance. It fed the soil, discouraged pests, strengthened crops, and required nothing except attention. Reintroducing nettle into modern systems does not mean abandoning technology. It means, reclaiming proven methods that reduce cost, improve resilience, and restore ecological stability. Whether you manage a backyard garden or study ancient agricultural systems, nettle offers a rare example of knowledge that survived millennia because it worked. In survival contexts, nettle is unmatched. It grows in nearly every temperate region, regenerates rapidly, and serves multiple roles. It feeds soil, protects crops, and even provides fiber and nutrition for humans when prepared correctly. Ancient societies valued plants that solved many problems at once, and nettle fits that philosophy perfectly. Understanding nettle is not about nostalgia. It is about recognizing that some solutions were already perfected long before modern labels existed. The weed we were taught to destroy may be one of the most useful allies we have left. If this guide added value to your understanding of ancient agricultural intelligence, subscribe to Hydrohaven for more deep historical knowledge that still applies today. Share this with fellow growers, historians, and survivalists who care about systems that endure.